Hi, I'm Jo and this is my channel Mellow Belly Yoga. Join me in this video for a survival course in the forests of southwest France. We're gonna forage for food, we're gonna build shelter, we're gonna make fire, and we're gonna find out what kind of survivor character I would be. And let's just say it's not who I thought. But first, some context. I'm someone who has really suffered with anxiety. And for the sake of this video, I'm really just gonna focus on climate anxiety. I read this article by David Wallace Wells called The Uninhabitable Earth. Now, I had already been really worried about climate change before this, but the article just completely pushed me over the edge. Every waking moment of my life was filled with dread. I was so hyper aware of our cognitive dissonance around the climate catastrophe. Normal life kind of just felt like a sick joke.
We're all 100% for sure gonna fucking die!
All of this to say that when I first became interested in survival courses, it was coming from a really anxious place. Because in my mind, I was telling myself, if you learn these skills and a catastrophe does strike, then at least you're not going to be completely useless. Luckily, I got help. My therapist and I agreed that I needed to go onto some anti-anxiety medication. Long story short, I'm doing so much better. But it was interesting to find myself on the survival course minus the hectic anxiety that had made me want to go on a survival course in the first place. How would it change the experience? What would it make possible? So let's get packing and find out.
I'm so nervous.
Gotta get in there. I hope my little backpack is in here. Not there. Where the hell is my hiking bag? So I haven't been able to find it inside, so it's time for us to pull out the big guns.
The shed. Shit, a brick.
6.5 hours later.
Yeah, I never found my hiking pack, so I ended up using this tiny little backpack instead. Sleeping bag, hiking outfit, flashlight, the top, a hat and some gloves. Plan. They said I need to have a knife. Shwing. Legit compass. I managed to get everything in, but I went to bed way late. So the 5 a.m. wake up the next day was tough. It is 5:32 in the morning and I'm setting out to Leland. Yeah, here we go. I pulled over at a petrol station to sleep for 30 minutes because, yeah, I guess I underestimated how tiring it is to drive in the dark. And finally the sun is coming up. By that time, I was ready for some breakfast and I found this. This is definitely my first vending machine chocolatine, but who am I to complain? It was a 3-hour drive in total, and I was kind of nervous when I turned off onto the little country road that led to our starting point. There were 14 of us, plus our guide Boris. And after a short icebreaker, we put our backpacks on our backs and headed out. First stop, a nearby meadow where we learned about stinging nettles, plantain, yarrow, and grasshoppers.
Allez, on mâche, on mâche, on mâche.
Un petit goût de noisette.
C'est bon?
Non, c'est bon.
moi c'est bon.
Ouais, tu vois.
I got in on the action too. They're actually pretty good. We even tried the edible part of a pine tree called the cambium. And all the while, we kept our eyes peeled for all the tools we'd need later to make fire. Finally, we reached our camping spot. It was in a clearing not far from a river. Boris taught us the basics of creating a shelter. We would need 3 things: 2 sturdy trees, 2 Y-shaped branches, and a strong beam. Okay, hold up. I want to talk about Survivor for a second. My wife has turned me into a mega Survivor fan. Obviously, as we got started, I couldn't help but wonder if the different personalities in the group were going to gel or not. You know, would there be a power struggle? But to our credit, we collaborated really well together. Anybody with an idea got to have a say, and no one person came out as like the bossy leader. As for myself, I was actually a lot more introverted and quiet than I expected. I think I was a little overwhelmed by everybody. Let me know in the comments what kind of Survivor player you think you'd be. Once the frame was up, we had to cover it in bracken and any other kind of vegetation that was well suited to waterproofing the shelter. I cannot tell you how much bracken we needed, and there were still holes. But you know, we were all pretty stoked with it. And with the shelter sorted, we could move on to fire making. Now, fire making is where things got really interesting for me because I am a recovering perfectionist. So I fully expected this exercise to bring out, gotta get it right, Joe. Gotta be the best student, Joe. But weirdly enough, I couldn't bring myself to perform or get stressed about it or even get competitive about it. I can't tell if I was so afraid to fail at making fire that I decided not to try hard enough to find out, or if I was just like, bro, being the solo hero is exhausting. And to that point, it actually took 3 people to make fire, so...
Ah, préparez-vous à... Allez, encore un peu, encore un peu. Encore un peu, encore un peu. Allez, on va au foyer. On va au foyer, on va au foyer. Allez, pose dessus, pose dessus. Ok, alors attends. Maintenant, le petit bois. Bravo.
Once we had a strong fire going at camp, we walked down to the river to collect water, we filtered it, we boiled it, all just in time for dinner. It was actually kind of cute. We had nettle and wild mint tea, we had a few blackberries and hawthorn berries, and we dry roasted a whole bunch of grasshoppers.
Je t'éclaire, comme ça je te fais le retrouver un peu.
Vas-y, moi je suis en vidéo là. Elle est énorme.
Miam miam. Ah là là, c'est cool.
Je suis sûr que c'est bon.
Ouais, ça a l'air.
Elle est cuite?
C'est tendre.
One guy even cleaned and cooked some slugs, but I was like, I've seen a slug eating dog shit and a toenail. It was cute. We told some stories, we puzzled over some riddles around the fireplace, and basically kind of all got tucked in just in time for it to start raining. We ended up covering our shelter with all the tops that we'd brought because there was no way the bracken was going to keep us dry overnight. I actually slept really well. My sleeping bag was so cozy. I would never have known that my head was centimeters away from a literal swimming pool of water. Day 2 was busy. We made fire with flint, which I actually managed to do, but only with some super dry cotton wool. We also learned how to use a compass, how to tie a few really important knots. Okay, we start by pinching it. Oh shit, oh no. We got the little butterfly, then we twist the car key and we thread it through. I don't know if that's as neat as it should be. Did I get that right? If you know, please let me know in the comments. And the grand finale, we had to design a stretcher that was strong enough and robust enough for us to actually carry somebody all the way back to our home base.
Est-ce que vous êtes chaud?
By this point, I was so grateful for the rest of the team. I literally didn't carry that stretcher for a second. I don't know, I was finished. Which is also not the kind of survivor player I thought I would be.
Ah, ça n'est pas encore arrivé là. Allez, on accélère. Bravo.
I wish I could have shown you how dirty my hands were and how much came off of them when I finally got to wash them. I've always obsessed over doing, you know, survival stuff and being capable. I don't know if it's just maybe I'm exhausted by life, but more than anything, I actually really felt like I wanted to be taken care of, which is ridiculous. At this point right now, I want to be responsible for less. And I can only think that that's like exhaustion or a little bit of burnout or whatever. What I loved actually about it was having people around you to help. So going it alone is not the answer. Yes, having these skills is essential. It's really important. It's empowering. It can be fun. But more than anything, I was just like, community is essential. You need people to carry a stretcher with. You need people whose arms still have a bit of energy in them to make fire. You need all of that coming together. Somebody who's very detail oriented, who can fix your sleeping bag. Mine would not work. The zip was totally screwed up and somebody was able to fix my sleeping bag. And that was just like, yeah, it's nice to know that there's people who have your back. I guess maybe that's where I diverge away from survivalism. The idea that, you know, it's just you in your ivory tower surviving alone. Yeah, I guess that's my takeaway.
Let's get the spoiled toy.